What if your last name wasn't just a label, but a sentence, a curse passed down through generations, written in blood, betrayal, and survival? There are names in American history that carry weight, but some names carry a stain, a curse that began with a single decision, a single accusation, or a single act of defiance. A curse can be a family feud that lasts a century, a false accusation that destroys a lineage, or a moment of greed that leaves a surname forever associated with tragedy. These families didn't just change America, they built it, bled for it, and in some cases were destroyed by it. And their names, they echo through history like a warning. Today, we are uncovering 9 surnames that were cursed by history. But these aren't just stories of tragedy. They are stories of resilience, of families who refuse to let their name die. Every surname has a secret, but these 9, their secrets are darker than most. They are the ones you whisper about at family reunions, the ones that make you wonder. Some curses are born in the mountains, others in the courthouses, and a few were born on the battlefields of the Civil War, where families fought against each other and never forgave. But here is the truth about curses. They don't last forever, and sometimes the very name that was once cursed becomes the name that defines a nation. From the blood-soaked hills of Kentucky to the witch-hunting streets of Massachusetts, these are the stories of 9 names that history tried to forget. Welcome to Surname Secrets. Today, we are uncovering the 9 cursed surnames that built, broke, and rebuilt America. Let's begin with the most famous feud in American history. Surname number 1, McCoy. The McCoy name is forever etched in American folklore, but what started as a dispute over a stolen pig in 1878 would become the most famous family feud in American history. The feud began with a simple accusation. A pig was stolen, a man was killed, and in the mountains, blood demanded blood. By the time the feud ended, over a dozen McCoys were dead. But the curse wasn't the violence itself, it was the legacy of revenge that poisoned generations. The curse of the McCoys wasn't just a curse of violence, it was a curse of loyalty. To be a McCoy meant you had to fight, even if you didn't want to. The feud consumed everything. Farms were burned, men were hanged, and children grew up learning to hate a name before they learned to read. Many McCoys fled the curse. They went west, changing their names, hoping the mountains would forget them. But the curse followed. The McCoys who survived became farmers, blacksmiths, and merchants. They built towns in Kansas, Nebraska, and Texas. They refused to let their name die. The curse of the McCoys was eventually replaced by something worse, poverty. But even in the coal mines, the McCoy name survived. It was a badge of honor. Today, there are over 150,000 McCoys in America. They are lawyers, teachers, and soldiers. The curse of the feud has faded, but the name remains a symbol of Appalachian resilience. The McCoys weren't just cursed, they were warriors, and their story reminds us that even the darkest name can find redemption. Surname number 2, Proctor. In the winter of 1692, the Proctor name became synonymous with one of the darkest chapters in American history. But it wasn't because of a crime they committed, it was because of a lie. John Proctor was a farmer, a successful, stubborn, outspoken man who didn't believe in the witch hysteria sweeping through his community, and that made him a target. John Proctor was hanged on August 19, 1692. His crime? Refusing to confess to witchcraft. His last words? "I am no more a witch than you are a wizard." The curse of the Proctor name wasn't just the execution, it was the accusation itself. Once your name was spoken in that room, you were marked for death. John Proctor died with dignity, but his family did not. His wife, Elizabeth, was also accused but survived. His children grew up with a name that had been publicly shamed. The Proctor family fled Massachusetts. They changed their names, moved south, and started over, but the stain of the accusation followed them for generations. In Virginia, the Proctors found peace. They became farmers, then soldiers, then statesmen. The curse began to fade as they helped build a new nation. Today, the Proctor name is no longer cursed, but in Salem, the name is still whispered with a mix of shame and respect, a reminder how quickly a name can be destroyed by fear. Today, there are over 60,000 proctors in America. They are judges, doctors, and teachers. The curse of the accusation has been replaced by a legacy of justice. The Proctor story is a warning, a reminder that a curse can be born from fear, but a name can be redeemed by courage. Your surname is not your fate, it is your story. Is your surname on this list, or do you have a family story about a curse? Drop it in the comments below. We might feature your surname in the next video. Surname number 3, Booth. On the night of April 14, 1865, the Booth name became forever synonymous with infamy. But the curse of the Booths started long before that single gunshot. John Wilkes Booth was a famous actor, a celebrity, but he was also a Confederate sympathizer who believed that killing Abraham Lincoln would save the South. Instead, he cursed his own name forever. The curse of the Booth name wasn't just the assassination, it was the shame that followed every Booth who came after, a name that became synonymous with treason. But John Wilkes Booth wasn't alone. His entire family was cursed by his actions. His brother, Edwin Booth, was one of the greatest actors of his generation, and he spent the rest of his life trying to escape his brother's shadow. John Wilkes Booth was hunted down and killed on April 26, 1865. His body was returned to Washington, where he was buried in secret, but the curse of the Booth name was just beginning. Many Booths changed their names. They fled to England, Canada, and Australia, hoping the curse wouldn't follow, but it did. The name was now a mark of infamy that no distance could erase. The Booth family's estate became a ghost house, a monument to shame. For decades, the name Booth was a curse that no one wanted to claim, until the 20th century, when a new generation decided to reclaim it. Today, there are over 100,000 Booths in America. They are artists, actors, and entrepreneurs. The curse of John Wilkes Booth has faded, but the name still carries weight, a reminder that one man's actions can define a family for centuries. The Booth story is a story of redemption, a reminder that a name is not a prison, it is a challenge, and every generation has the power to rewrite the story. On January 30th, 1649, the Cromwell name became the most cursed name in British history, not because of something they lost, but because of something they took away, a king's life. Oliver Cromwell was a Puritan revolutionary who believed he was doing God's work. He defeated King Charles I, abolished the monarchy, and declared England a republic, but his victory came at a cost. Cromwell's signature on that death warrant cursed his family for generations. When the monarchy was restored in 1660, his body was exhumed, hanged, and beheaded. His head was placed on a spike outside Westminster Hall for 24 years. The curse of the Cromwell name wasn't just the execution, it was the arrogance. Cromwell believed he was above the law, above the crown, above God, and his family paid the price for his pride. When the monarchy was restored just 2 years later, the Cromwell curse struck. His body was ripped from the grave, and his family was forced into exile. The Cromwell name was banned from England. The Cromwells fled to the American colonies. They changed their names to Williams, to Smiths, to anything that would hide their royal guilt. They tried to forget, but history never forgets. In America, the Cromwells found redemption. They became planters, then soldiers, then statesmen. The curse of the regicide faded, and the name Cromwell became American. For 200 years, the Cromwell name was a curse in England, but in America, it became a symbol of defiance. The same family that killed a king helped birth a new nation. Today, there are over 30,000 Cromwells in America. They are lawyers, doctors, and politicians. The curse of the execution has faded, but the name still carries the weight of revolution. The Cromwell story is a story of exile and return, a reminder that even the most cursed name can find redemption, and that a name is not a punishment, it is a promise. In the summer of 1892, the Borden name became one of the most infamous in American history, not because of a war or a feud or a political betrayal, but because of an axe and a Sunday morning that would haunt a family forever. Andrew and Abby Borden were wealthy, respected members of the community. They had a daughter, Lizzie, who was 32 years old, unmarried, and lived at home. On August 4, 1892, Andrew and Abby were both found dead in their home, their skulls crushed by an axe. The curse of the Borden name wasn't just the murder, it was the accusation. Lizzie Borden was arrested, tried, and ultimately acquitted, but the name was stained forever, and the world never forgot the rhyme. Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. The rhyme has haunted the Borden name for a century, but the truth is far more complicated. The curse of the Borden name wasn't just the trial, it was the silence. Lizzie Borden never spoke publicly about the murders. She retreated to a life of isolation, haunted by whispers until her death in 1927. The Borden curse followed the family for generations. Children changed their names, grandchildren moved to the West Coast, but the name was forever associated with that single bloody morning. The Bordens who went west became cowboys, ranchers, and pioneers. They built new lives in Montana, Texas, and Wyoming. They refused to let the curse define them. Today, the Borden house is a tourist attraction. The curse has become a curiosity, but for those who carry the name, the shadow of that Sunday morning lingers. Today, there are over 20,000 Bordens in America. They are teachers, artists, and entrepreneurs. The curse of the axe has faded, but the name still carries a dark fascination. We're halfway through. Which surname surprised you the most? Tell us in the comments, and if your name is Borden, we'd love to hear from you. In the 16th century, the border between England and Scotland was a place of lawlessness, a place where the rule of kings meant nothing and the rule of clans meant everything, and no clan was more feared or more cursed than the Armstrongs. The Armstrongs were border reavers, raiders who lived by the sword, taking cattle, land, and lives. They answered to no king, no crown, no law, and that made them a target for the English crown. In 1529, King James V of Scotland declared the Armstrongs outlaws. He gathered an army and marched on their strongholds, capturing and executing dozens of Armstrongs. But the curse was just beginning. The curse of the Armstrong name wasn't just the execution, it was the betrayal. King James invited the Armstrongs to a feast, then had them arrested. They died believing they were dining with a king. The Armstrong curse was a curse of displacement. The survivors fled to the hills, to the islands, to anywhere they could hide, but the crown never forgot them. The Armstrongs fled to Ireland, then to the American colonies. They became frontiersmen, soldiers, and explorers. In America, the Armstrong name found freedom from the crown. In America, the Armstrongs became pioneers,
They fought in the Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, and the Civil War. They were soldiers, explorers, and builders. The curse became a calling. Today, Gilnockie Tower is a monument to the Armstrong curse, but in America, the name Armstrong is celebrated. It is a name of courage, survival, and defiance. Today, there are over 500,000 Armstrongs in America. They are CEOs, generals, and astronauts. The curse of the border has been replaced by a legacy of achievement. The Armstrong story is a story of exile and return, a reminder that even the most cursed name can find redemption, and that a name is not a punishment, it is a promise.
In the summer of 1892, the Borden name became one of the most infamous in American history, not because of a war or a feud or a political betrayal, but because of an axe and a Sunday morning that would haunt a family forever. Andrew and Abby Borden were wealthy, respected members of the community. They had a daughter, Lizzie, who was 32 years old, unmarried, and lived at home. On August 4th, 1892, Andrew and Abby were both found dead in their home, their skulls crushed by an axe. The curse of the Borden name wasn't just the murder, it was the accusation. Lizzie Borden was arrested, tried, and ultimately acquitted, but the name was stained forever, and the world never forgot the rhyme. Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. The rhyme has haunted the Borden name for over a century, but the truth? The truth is far more complicated. The curse of the Borden name wasn't just the trial, it was the silence. Lizzie Borden never spoke publicly about the murders. She retreated to a life of isolation, haunted by whispers until her death in 1927. The Borden curse followed the family for generations. Children changed their names. Grandchildren moved to the West Coast, but the name was forever associated with that single bloody morning. The Bordens who went west became cowboys, ranchers, and pioneers. They built new lives in Montana, Texas, and Wyoming. They refused to let the curse define them. Today, the Borden House is a tourist attraction. The curse has become a curiosity, but for those who carry the name, the shadow of that Sunday morning lingers. Today, there are over 20,000 Bordens in America. They are teachers, artists, and entrepreneurs. The curse of the axe has faded, but the name still carries a dark fascination. The Borden story is a reminder that a curse can be born from a single moment, but a name is bigger than that moment. And every generation has the power to write a new ending. We're halfway through. Which surname surprised you the most? Tell us in the comments. And if your name is Borden, we'd love to hear from you. In the 16th century, the border between England and Scotland was a place of lawlessness, a place where the rule of kings meant nothing and the rule of clans meant everything. And no clan was more feared or more cursed than the Armstrongs. The Armstrongs were border reavers, raiders who lived by the sword, taking cattle, land, and lives. They answered to no king, no crown, no law. And that made them a target for the English crown. In 1529, King James V of Scotland declared the Armstrongs outlaws. He gathered an army and marched on their strongholds, capturing and executing dozens of Armstrongs. But the curse was just beginning. The curse of the Armstrong name wasn't just the execution, it was the betrayal. King James invited the Armstrongs to a feast, then had them arrested. They died believing they were dining with a king. The Armstrong curse was a curse of displacement. The survivors fled to the hills, to the islands, to anywhere they could hide. But the crown never forgot them. The Armstrongs fled to Ireland, then to the American colonies. They became frontiersmen, soldiers, and explorers. In America, the Armstrong name found freedom from the crown. In America, the Armstrong name became pioneers. They fought in the Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, and the Civil War. They were soldiers, explorers, and builders. The curse became a calling. Today, Gilnockie Tower is a monument to the Armstrong curse, but in America, the Armstrong name is celebrated. It is a name of courage, survival, and defiance. Today, there are over 500,000 Armstrongs in America. They are CEOs, generals, and astronauts.
the curse of the border has been replaced by a legacy of achievement. The Armstrong story is the story of exile and return, a reminder that a curse can be a blessing in disguise, and that the name you carry is not a weight, it is a legacy. The Calvert name is one of the most respected in American history, but behind that respect lies a curse of religious persecution, betrayal, and a dream that nearly destroyed a family. George Calvert, the first Lord Baltimore, had a dream, a colony in the New World where Catholics and Protestants could live together in peace. He was an English Catholic in a time of violent religious persecution, and that made him a target. The curse of the Calverts wasn't just religious persecution, it was the betrayal of the very ideals they fought for. The colony thrived, but the Calverts were forced to defend their Catholic faith against a tide of Protestant settlers. The curse of the Calverts was a curse of compromise. They gave up their political power, their religious ideals, and eventually their control over the colony they founded. But the name Calvert survived. The Calverts' dream was a dream of tolerance, but the reality was a colony torn by religious strife. The curse of the Calverts was that their vision was never fully realized. The Calverts continued to fight for their colony, but the curse of religious persecution never left them. They were mocked, marginalized, and eventually their power was stripped away. The Calverts adapted. They became planters, then soldiers, then politicians. The curse of the colony faded, and the name Calvert became synonymous with Maryland itself. Today, the Calvert name is celebrated in Maryland. The state flag includes the Calvert coat of arms, but the curse of religious persecution is never forgotten. Today, there are over 30,000 Calverts in America. They are lawyers, congressmen, and artists. The curse of the colony has faded, but the name still carries the weight of a dream. The Calvert story is a story of vision and compromise, a reminder that even the most noble name can be cursed by the times. But a name is not the end. It is the beginning. On July 4th, 1776, the Rutledge name was written into the very fabric of American history, but behind the celebration lay a curse that would destroy them, a curse of debt, sacrifice, and forgotten loyalty. The Rutledges were one of the wealthiest families in the American colonies. John Rutledge signed the Declaration of Independence. His brother Edward was a governor. They had everything, but the war would take it all. The curse of the Rutledges wasn't just the war, it was the debt. The Rutledges poured their entire fortune into the revolutionary cause, and when the war was over, they were left with nothing. The curse of the Rutledges was the curse of forgotten sacrifice. They gave everything to build a nation, and in return, they were left to die in poverty. Their names signed the Declaration, but their families never recovered. The curse of the Rutledges was the curse of patriotism. They fought for a nation that would forget them. They died in obscurity, their names erased from history by their own poverty. The Rutledges who survived fled west. They became farmers, then cowboys, then teachers. They tried to forget the curse of the Declaration, but their name was forever tied to it. In Texas, the Rutledges found freedom, not the freedom of the Declaration, but the freedom to define themselves. They built towns, schools, and churches. They refused to let the curse destroy them. Today, the Rutledge name is a footnote in history books. The curse of the Revolution still lingers, but in the American West, the Rutledges thrive. Today, there are over 40,000 Rutledges in America. They are lawyers, teachers, and soldiers. The curse of forgotten sacrifice has faded, but the name still carries the weight of the revolution. The Rutledge story is a story of sacrifice and forgetting, a reminder that the names that built this nation are not always the names we remember, but they are the names that matter. If you're still watching, drop your last name in the comments right now. We read every single one. The Tillman name is not as famous as the others on this list, but the curse of the Tillmans was the curse of the frontier itself, a curse of survival, war, and the relentless march of American expansion. The Tillmans were settlers, families who pushed west into lands that were not yet theirs. They were caught between the British, the Indians, and the desperate fight for survival. The curse of the Tillmans wasn't just the war, it was the isolation, the relentless, grinding pain of survival on a frontier that was as unforgiving as it was beautiful. The Tillmans fought in the Revolutionary War, the Northwest Indian War and the War of 1812. They were soldiers, scouts, and survivors, but the frontier exacted a heavy price. The curse of the Tillmans was the curse of the forgotten. They were the ones who built the forts, fought the battles, and died in the wilderness, but their names are not in the history books. The Tillmans kept moving west. They crossed the Mississippi, the Missouri, and the Platte. They settled in Iowa, Nebraska, and Kansas. The frontier was their curse and their calling. The Tillmans were pioneers. They built schools, churches, and towns. The curse of the frontier became the blessing of the American heartland. Today, the Tillman name is scattered across the American Midwest. The curse of the frontier has faded, but the names of those who died are still carved into the prairie. Today, there are over 10,000 Tillmans in America. They are farmers, teachers, and ranchers. The curse of the frontier has become a legacy of resilience. Names are more than labels. They are threads in the tapestry of history. Some threads are bright and celebrated. Others are dark and forgotten. But every thread matters. Every name tells a story, and every surname carries the weight of every person who bore it before you. The curse of a surname is not a prison. It is a challenge, a chance to rewrite the story, to turn tragedy into triumph, to turn tragedy into triumph, to turn tragedy into triumph. Your last name is your inheritance. It is the gift of your ancestors, the good, the bad, and the cursed. And you have the power to shape what it means tomorrow. Because a curse is only a curse if you let it be. The McCoys turned revenge into resilience. The Proctors turned accusation into justice.